Hi, and welcome to Franklin's Garage to Stage podcast. My name is Rob Wardrums Franklin, and my co-host is
Dana Thunderbase Franklin. So with us today, we've got a special guest all the way from the UK, Mr. Jay Ball, who is pretty much the leader, founder, and everything of a band called Gospels of Odin. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, Dana. Thank you. You guys?
Awesome. It's a pleasure to have you on here.
Yes, it is.
So maybe you can tell the world how you would describe your band to anybody that's never heard of you guys or listened to you. How would you describe Gospels of Odin to the world?
Yeah, Gospels of Odin is really a project that I started about just short of 18 months ago. I'd got a load of songs that I wanted to sort of really get back into recording again. I'd not been recording for some years. I've been playing music for 40 years, and I wanted to sort of do something fresh, something new, something interesting, and I live and breathe sort of metal music, not in any particular genres. I like all genres of metal music. And so I wanted to create something that was basically was fun to play, was fun to record, and produce some really good songs. I think with having 40 years of experience of being in the music industry and of writing and recording a lot of music over those years, I found that when I sort of put the studio together and this project together for recording, that I found a new lease of life with this project. It was really cool. It was really interesting and exciting, and I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I love the tunes. I've listened to a number of them, and I really like them.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about? I understand you have a guitar academy. What is that all about?
Yeah, when I was I started off playing guitar in the 80s, and obviously as a young guy in my bedroom at sort of 14, 15 years old. And back in those days, you didn't really sort of have guitar teachers, and you didn't have any sort of way of teaching guitar. What we'd do is sort of somebody had learn, I don't know, they'd learn Ace of Spades by Motorhead or something, and then we'd all pile around to their house and they'd show us how to play it, and then I'd learn something like Iron Man by Black Sabbath, and so that's how we learned to play guitar back in the early 80s. So when I got into my 20s, and I'd done a lot of music, I'd been doing music a lot for a living. I decided that I wanted to I'd go into teaching, because some people say that, when you start teaching, it's sort of like you're a failed musician, and I've always disagreed with that, because I always think if you're good at what you do, and particularly in playing an instrument like the guitar, then why not pass that on to the next generation and the generation after that?
Absolutely.
So the whole reason for starting up the J Ball Guitar Academy, which I started in 1994, was to give something back, and to be honest, I loved it. It was an amazing part of me as a person, growing more as a musician, and being able to trade those guitar skills that I'd learned, because back in the early 90s, guitar lessons we didn't have the internet back then, remember? So you would go to a guitar teacher, or you would go to a guitar shop or a music shop, and that's where you tended to find a guitar tutor. Whereas I decided I had a studio at home, that I would just basically open up my studio, open up my home, and become a tutor from home. So I started my own guitar academy.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, we've talked before on some of our other episodes of how kids today have no excuse for now. I mean, they've got so much availability to the internet and music lessons and videos of the pros even showing you how to do certain chords and and stuff on the internet. It's funny. Back in the day, we're talking about how we just keep playing tapes and rewind it and play it again and play it again to try to figure out what the song is, and until the tape started getting all warped, because there was no automatic tabs on the internet to look shit up. Yeah. So my question is, in every musician's career, there's a point where at an early age or even later on where they're like, wow, this is what I want to do for a living? What was the moment that told you, shit, music is what I want to do?
I think growing up in the early 80s, I was fortunate because the music in that era was like phenomenal. And obviously, I'm English, I'm British, and so you guys are clearly aware of the British wave of new heavy metal, and that was just like, some of those bands were just incredible. And we're like 14, 15 years old at this period of time. And we're hearing like Tigers of Pantang, and they're from my country. We're hearing Motorhead, they're from my country. We're hearing some of the bands from that era, like Def Leppard, who went on and became phenomenally big. I suppose they were like world dominators and probably still are. So for us growing up in that era, it was kind of like, it felt exciting because that wave of British music was in our country, and we kind of felt a little bit sort of, to be a part of that was really cool. And I know that people like, going back in the day, where Lars would come over from Metallica, and he loved that wave of British heavy metal, and he came and sort of, if you've ever read his biographies, I'm sure people have, he used to bunk down at people's houses, right. And sort of basically, as a young boy himself, he would hang out with these guys and in these bands, and he took that back to America. So I kind of feel in a way that we helped create that wave, that those Metallica bands of that early era were definitely founded from our country. So I felt proud to be part of that at that age. We were lucky.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Hey, I've got another question for you here about your, obviously you're talented in many different ways, but do you also play percussion for all your songs? Being a drummer, that's, the thing I listen to the first and foremost. So
yeah, I am a multi-instrumentalist. I mean, guitar is my main instrument, but I kind of found that I was always, when I used to put bands together years ago, when I was younger, back in the 80s and 90s, I always tended to be sort of the driving force. I was the songwriter. I tended to be the person that would book the gigs. I was the person that would sort of keep the band in.
We can relate, yeah.
I even drove the van, man. You know what I mean? I was like, it was the be all and end all. Sort of, it was my little project. I always wanted equals in the band, and we had equal, obviously, band members. But I think my drive and motivation was probably much more than those. So as I got better at playing, and I kind of knew because I've been playing a long time, and knew what styles I wanted to play. So over the years, I kind of thought, well, could we try this sort of beat instead of that beat? And so I could jump on the kit and I could knock that out, and it'd be like, yeah, okay. Then could we try this sort of style of bass on there? And so the bass player would be like, yeah, that's cool. And then the singer, I'm not a singer. I can sing, but I wouldn't say I was a great singer. But I could always write lyrics, and I could always see how those lyrics would fit into what I was writing. So I didn't sort of take it on from a point of view that I wanted to be the sort of the man in control as such. I just had a passion for writing music, and I could hear things slightly different in my own mind, and the only way I could get that out and portray it to, say, the bass player in the band was to sort of say, dude, this is kind of the riff I've written on the guitar, how about trying this? And then, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of scope for them to improvise and have their own inspiration with it, but I always found that I wanted to play more than just the guitar, although I love playing the guitar. So I felt like, well, if I was going to shoebox into just playing riffs and lead guitar parts, and maybe I was doing myself an injustice, really.
Okay. What type of a kit do you have? I mean, what do you play on what you've recorded? What kind of kit are you using right now?
The kits we use, we tend to use like a lot of the drums that I've used, particularly on the gospel stuff. We've used we've basically sampled the kit drums, okay, and the snares and we've cut them up and we've sort of put them into the studio behind me, and I've sort of created the drum beats and from the samples that we've used. But I've been able, because I can play the drums, I've been able to execute them in a way where they sound live.
Right. Okay.
They sound like, they don't sound like a drum machine.
You're right, they don't either.
So with this, especially with this new album that you did,
God's Eye.
Yeah. Did you do everything? Did you do the bass tracks too and the guitar tracks? And obviously, I think it was your son that did the vocals on it. But um, how? Because what I've read is that you did the mixing, the mastering, and everything on there. Where did you get the
Mhm.
experience to do this? Is it something that was taught formally somewhere, or did you just learn it along the way?
No, again, I'm self-taught all the way through. It was just a
Nice.
case of I got a good ear for music. I listen to music all day, every day. I have done for many, many years now. I get up, I put music on. Music's with me all day. I come home, have my tea, music's on. I just listen to music all the time. So I'm sort of super inspired by many different musicians. So when it came to sort of writing God's Eye, I'd got so many different ideas that I wanted to sort of put together that it was easy to do. And because I've been playing for sort of 40 years, I've had a studio since 1991. I had my first studio. So I've had a studio for 35 years. So I kind of got used to being able, albeit an older studio then, I got used to being able to sort of put a drum beat down and put a bass line down. And because I listen to a lot of music, I kind of think, I love the sound of that. Can I recreate that in something that I want to do? And again, coming down to sort of, if you guys have obviously been in the studio, you know yourselves, you can sort of solo everything off and just listen exclusively to the bass line, and you can add little bits of EQ, and you can play about with things and make it sound much bigger and wholer than perhaps it is just sitting there in your lap. So there is a bit of wizardry in there.
Okay, cool. I've got kind of a two-part question for you.
Yeah.
What is your songwriting process? And secondly, what are your plans for putting those songs into like a live performance? Is that something you've been thinking about doing?
Yeah. Talking about the first part of the question, the process of writing, I tend to find that because I'm fortunate enough that I've got 4 kids, and all my kids listen to metal music.
Nice.
And they're all adult. They're all young adults.
Way to teach them right.
Good
right,
parent.
Yeah. My eldest son is 20, and he'll come to me and he'll go, "Oh, Dad, you've got to check out Kublai Khan TX or something." I'm like, yeah, cool, put him on. And he played me something, for example, like Ant Pile was a song off that was one of their. It's a little snip of a song that's about 30, 40 seconds long. And he played me this part, and it was like, that reminds me, Dad, of what you sound like when you just chugging on your guitar. And so I listened to that Kublai Khan, and then I thought, I'll download the album and I'll have a little listen to the album. And I was like, yeah, I really like the sound of that. And to me, it was kind of a new, fresher sound.
Right.
To him, obviously, it was just sort of something mainstream. So then I kind of think to myself, okay, could I write a song similar to that sort of style? Could I put my own stamp on it, but could I actually take inspiration from that? So because I listen to a lot of music, I'm just using Kublai Khan as one example. I could sit there and think, well, yeah, I could replicate that particular song or this song. And so it tends to start with being inspired by a band that like kind of kicked my ass a little bit, and I was like, I love that, I'd love to sound like that, and then it kind of grows from there.
Okay.
Nice.
The live aspect of it is a little bit more tricky. I've obviously played live a lot in the past when I was a younger man. This project at the moment, Gospels of Odin, started off as sort of my little brainchild. Levi was sort of he's been into his metal since he was born, but this sounds ridiculous, but I'd never heard him sing. And my wife and we went away on holiday, and I came back. We'd been away for a week, and he said, "Oh, Dad, I've been up in the studio. I've been doing some recording." I was like, "Oh, cool." He said, "Do you want to have a listen?" So I was like, "Yeah, cool." So we came up into the studio, and he'd done the vocals on Bone Crusher, which is off the album God's Eye. And he sort of said, he hit play on the play deck. And I was just like, whoa, where did that voice come from, man? And I was absolutely blown away. I was like, I did not know that you could sing like that, because he'd never came to me and said, "Dad, I want to be a singer." Dad, I want to be in a band. He just sort of loves his metal, loves going to gigs, listens to music all the time like I do, but he never sort of told me that he was practicing singing. And as it came down to it, he'd been practicing for about 6 months, but never said anything to me. And his voice just fitted that song perfectly. And I was like, "Oh my God, that is awesome! We've got to do something with this." And so then I made him a list of the songs that were on the first album, On God's Eye, and said, "Which of these songs do you fancy putting vocals on? Which do you think would work best for your voice?" And we sort of had a chat about it, and we picked out the songs that he wanted to do. And it's been amazing. The album came out before he'd had the chance to sort of do any more vocals. So he came to me, to give you an idea, a perspective on time. It was February when he unleashed this amazing voice on me, and the album came out in April. So I was like, "Dude, we ain't got time to like rewrite the whole album now and put vocals on it." So what we'll do is he picked 5 songs, he put the vocals onto those 5 songs, and then we've got another 28 songs lined up ready to go at some point in the future, which have not got all vocals on those yet. Coming back to the question, I know I'm going around the houses with regarding playing live. At the moment, it's a father and son project, so I would need to find a bass player. I definitely need a second guitarist, and obviously we need a drummer. So I'm open to that. Yes, I am. Depending on how well this project goes, I am open to that.
Okay.
Well, how long's the flight is it from here,
Yeah,
here to there?
we could be there.
Bass and drums right here.
Thank you.
No, that album's amazing. So with that and having your son involved with that, I mean, of course, metal, rock and roll, it's got the bad rep of all the drugs, sex, and rock and roll and all that. How do you talk to your son about coming into that life and staying away from the stuff that can
The
ruin
pitfalls.
it? Especially,
I think, it is. I think I don't worry about those things too much. At the end of the day, we are responsible for ourselves, and I know seasoned musicians that have been playing a long time and have never touched anything. I know. I've got dead friends as well, so I kind of know what that scene is.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think he's 15, and so he's got to make his own. He's got to make his own mind up where he wants to go with this. At the moment, we're putting Levi down as featured as the vocalist because this isn't a 5-6 piece band. This is just father and son. And the reason I wanted to do that was A, because he was 15, and B, because his voice is so good that I don't want him to feel that he's the singer in Gospels of Odin and he can't do anything else, because he's got his whole life in front of him and he's a really good vocalist. And Levi and I spoke about it in length, really. And I said to Levi that if we can use Gospels of Odin as a springboard for you as a vocalist, then you're not starting at the local pub playing a few gigs with your mates and kind of going round in circles and, no disrespect, but not really going anywhere. We're sort of pitching you in a lot higher, where a band that are looking for a younger band than Gospels of Odin, that are looking for that type of singer, that would be perfect for him. And I'd be happy for him to go on and have his musical career. But he's 15, so he's got a lot of time to get into that. My other son Solomon, he also is a singer, but he's not. He's a great singer, but he's a different style of voice to Levi. But he's just sort of generally sort of left his singing in the shower and in the bedroom. He's not done anything with it yet,
Right.
And so he's got the opportunity. I've said to him to come on board, maybe on the second album now, and do some vocals and showcase what he can do as well. I'm just loving the opportunity to do this with my sons. It's awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great. I've got a couple of kids, and they haven't shown any interest at all in music, which kind of should surprise me. But yeah, I envy you, dude. That's cool. you've got some excellent videos out there. So my next question is basically, how are you producing these videos, and what type of equipment are you using? Because to the people that haven't seen them yet, you've got to check out his website, which I will, or his socials, which we will include on our website. But you've got to see these videos; they're amazing. So I just want to know basically how those are produced.
Uh, I'm smiling because again, I am the video producer.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, I just sort of decided that in order to, because when we used to write music and record it back in the 80s and 90s, it's kind of like we used to go into the studio as a band, we'd record a demo, say 4 songs, and we'd probably pay £500 English pounds back then, which was probably about £2,000 or £3,000 in today's money. So we kind of put all our money into like going into the studio and recording 4 songs on a cassette. And then we'd play gigs and we'd sell the cassettes, and that's how we sort of made a little bit of money. But at the end of the day, between the gigs and the cassettes, we still had to have a day job. We couldn't make that pay. It was kind of more beer money and fun money than anything else. So when I wanted to get into the project of Gospels, I wanted to sort of invest into the studio, which I did, and then into the video side of it, because I thought nowadays the beauty is that we don't have to go into the studio, spend £2,500 in today's money, and then release a cassette and go and play live. Those aspects would still work, but the internet has changed everything. Social media has changed everything. It's like the old the old song that if I knew then what I know now, I'd have been famous many times over, because the opportunity, it's never been easier now to get your music into a wider audience. We released God's Eye 28 days ago, 4 weeks ago now. We're punching nearly 9,000 streams. That's incredible.
That's amazing.
In 4 weeks of releasing a demo in 1980, we'd have probably sold 30 or 40 copies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's an incredible. The internet and the social media side of it is incredible. The video side for me was just a natural progression. We've got the music out there. Let's just do the video. I bought a drone. I paid some decent money for the equipment. I bought a drone, which was fantastic to use on Spellbinder. You can see it coming down into the valleys. And by the way, that's my daughter in the video.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, that's my daughter. I was like, "Do you fancy being famous?"
Yeah.
I'll put you on the big screen. I don't think she's had any offers since, but maybe she will in time. So I bought the drone, and we basically went out and had some fun recording the video. I think at the end of the day, we live in a beautiful part of England. We've got the Derbyshire Dales, literally a stone's throw away from where we live. And I'm talking about the Spellbinder video. The actual location we used was a place called Stanton on the Peak, which is in the Derbyshire Dales, and it's got this like really cool 4,000 year stone circle, which has got all this sort of urban legend attached to it about, apparently they call it, there's 9 stones there, and apparently the 9 stones of the circle were 9 ladies that danced on the Sabbath, and that they were turned to stone, and that's the sort of the cool myth and legend of the place. But that is very well. It's one of the most popular sort of. There's many popular places to see in Derbyshire and England, but that's one of the popular places to go for people that are into sort of more of the witchy and the sort of pagan-y sort of side of their music. There's sort of trees up there, and people like make little like sort of symbols and pentagrams, and they hang them in the trees and stuff. It's kind of got a whole witchy sort of vibe to it, right on top of a hill, and it's got a cool sort of a cool. The environment feels really good, and the atmosphere is really cool up there. And so, we went up there to shoot the video. The only problem we had was that because we were flying the drone up so high, and you get sort of like, hundreds of people visiting there, we had to keep like bringing the drone back down and going, "Excuse me, can you just like
no photo
move to the left? Just give me 5 minutes, please, because I'm just trying to do a bit of filming." And then people were obviously coming up to us saying, "Do you mind asking what you're doing?" And we were like, "Yeah, we're shooting a video for a music video." Oh my God, that's really cool. So yeah, it was a brilliant location, and the drone was a game changer for doing the videos.
Nice.
Cool,
Nice.
cool. Okay, so you've had obviously a long musical career. What is one of your best moments that you've had? You know, whether it be a live show or putting this Gospels of Odin project together. You know, what would you consider, you know, the pinnacle of your career so far?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. I think because because I've been playing music for 40 years now, I've got a lot of memories and a lot of fantastic times playing live. I was in a thrash band in the 80s when thrash was thrash,
Yeah.
Right.
and it was new, it was fresh, and we used to call it speed metal back then. And I think thrash was more of an American sort of name for it. In England, we call it speed metal. And you know, those days were brilliant. I was kind of living the dream myself. We had a great band. As the sort of 90s came in and it sort of the shift in music changed, we sort of disbanded and I went my own way. And I decided that I was really influenced in the early 90s by Alice in Chains. They're one of my all-time favourite bands. And they'd released the Facelift album. I think it's 89 or 90, that album. And I kind of got this album and I was just like, wow, what is this? It was like the freshest, coolest album music-wise I'd never heard anything like that back in 1989, 1990. So I was like, I'm going to put a band together just like this. This is cool. And so we kind of went, I put together a whole new bunch of guys and we came together and we put a band together called Tribe. From our town, and we did really well at the time. But again, we didn't have the internet and we didn't have the sort of the outlets that there are now. So we were back to sort of recording a tape. It was CD then. Record a CD, take it to the gigs, sell them at the gigs. Played a lot of shows with Tribe, and we thought we'd get signed, but unfortunately, I suppose the problem with that era and that band was that you were talking about it earlier, the sort of the drugs and rock and roll side of it sort of took over a little bit too much, and it ruined the band. It kind of rehearsals got certain members weren't turning up to rehearsals on time, and things got went a little bit darker, and it spoiled the band really. That I would say that element did spoil that band, but still amazing times. And then obviously I had, other than the my own guitar academy, I had a bit of a hiatus from being in a band for some years, and Gospels was sort of knocking on my door. As I say, I'd got some new influences from some amazing bands, and I wanted to sort of pick the instruments back up again and not just teach, but start to write and record and become a better musician myself, which I think I did on the debut album.
Well, I'm sure enjoying what I'm listening to. Hey, speaking of performances, we have a moment we call
"Oh shit!"
And this is basically an experience you've had that was either really bad, really embarrassing. Could be either at a live performance or a practice or during a recording, but just one of those moments where you just have to say, "Oh shit!"
There's been a few.
We've all had a few.
Yeah, there's been a few. We when we were in the grunge band, we had a drummer who was quite young, and he sort of came to rehearsal. He'd been telling us about this older lady that he'd been seeing that was married. And we were like, okay, dude, that's kind of not great, but you know, it's your life, and as long as it sort of doesn't interfere with the band, that's fine. And so we'd got a string of gigs booked, and we played a lot of pubs back in those days. The pub scene back in the 90s was really big in England. It's not so much now. That's the time and stuff changed. But back then it was, you know, there was a lot of live venues that you could play. And we rocked up to this one venue. We were setting all the gear up, and the landlord came out, and it was early. Came out and shook his hands, introduced himself, etc. And he was like, "Yeah, cool," you know. And he was like, "Oh, you know, love your band, and we love your sort of music and everything." I was like, "Yeah, cool." And we're sort of just doing the sound check, and the pub's starting to fill up now a little bit, and we're getting ready to sort of go on. And we go to order some drinks from the bar, and the guy in the band who's been seeing the older lady says, I can't get the drinks, guys. I'm like, why not? He's like, because my elder lady works in the pub. And we're like, dude,
Oh,
like
no.
what? I shit you not. She's married to the landlord
Okay.
that we're playing the gig to
Oh, no.
on the evening. So we were like, oh shit, well, let's just play anyway.
Yeah.
And we did play, and fortunately, the guy didn't find out for some time. We were lucky that now, otherwise the gig would have been off.
Yeah, that could have went real bad.
But that was kind of an oh shit moment. We were like, oh shit, we're about to play, and you're seeing the landlord's wife.
Oh, that's great.
Just keep looking over. Like, does he know? Does he know?
Yeah, that was crazy. We used to have these after show parties. They were always crazy. They were absolutely. We were sort of the people in the band. We always used to push each other musically, but we'd always push each other for like stupid pranks and stupid things to do when we'd had too much to drink.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd done an after show party one night, and we had this little dare. We were talking about this house that was probably 100 yards down the road, and it got a swimming pool. And the lads in the band were saying, no way, there's not a swimming pool down there. So we said, we'll set this little challenge. You've got to get stripped naked, so you're absolutely naked. You've got to run down the main road, jump over the wall to where this mansion was, and the first one into the pool is the winner. So yeah, after a few drinks, it's like, yeah, that sounds like fun. I'm up for that. So me and the bass player, we're off. We're running down the road. Cars are pipping at us. Hey, what are you doing? I could outrun him because I was a lot taller and skinnier than him. So I run and jump over the wall. I didn't realise the wall's about 3 foot on our side, but on the other side it's dropped down about 6 or 7 foot. So I just plummet down onto the floor, bearing in mind I'm naked. And the security lights come on, and there's 2 dogs in the garden.
Oh, damn.
I'm laughing his head off. He's gone. He's legged it, left me. I tell you, I never got off that wall so quickly.
Oh, I
got
bet.
off that wall.
I bet.
Fast as knees bleeding, hands bleeding, straight back to the house. Yeah, that was an oh shit moment.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, that's funny.
So the name of the band, Gospels of Odin, how did that come about? Is there a story behind it?
My love of Vikings. I love everything sort of Nordic. I'm very much. I'm not a religious man, but I love the whole sort of
So you follow
the aspect
true.
of Odin, and I've always loved that sort of stuff. I think those things kind of go hand in hand with metal and the music we listen to anyway. And so for me, I was kind of like, we could have called the band Odin, but I thought that was a little bit too, it was kind of 4 letters. It was a little bit too short. So I was kind of like, yeah, if we're going to bring other people into the band over a period of time, maybe to become alive, then we'll become like the Gospels of Odin. And so
right.
For me, I wanted to introduce, the whole Viking vibe, which I love.
So do you follow the Asatru religion, so to speak?
No, I'm not a religious person really. I don't follow it. I'm not an anti-religious person, but I don't follow religion as such.
Okay.
But I just love I love this sort of the feel of the. It was Gospels of Odin is sort of like the music's really sort of can be quite brutal. It can be quite beautiful in places. It can be masculine and it can be feminine. So it had got the whole sort of, for me, it had got the whole sort of Viking feel to it. And I just loved the feel that we could do something that was sort of related to that, because I know like the hit series Vikings, which was like the, you guys have probably seen it, which is a few years old now, was a huge hit over here in England. It was a massive sort of TV hit. And I just love the idea of, you'll hear it in some of my introductions, for example, on Killing Fields, when you've kind of got a whole sort of Nordic battle about to begin, and I just love the energy of that. I thought to put that into music was something a little bit different, but also it kind of gave the songs a new dimension. And for people that loved their sort of Viking Nordic sort of feel to the music, I thought they'd really they get Gospels of Odin, they like it, they love it.
And I like that new video featuring the Vikings on that hill. That's very cool. And once again, we'll
Yeah, that's
link
coming.
to that on our website. But
That's
a very
coming
cool
out
video.
actually. That's going to come out at the end of this week actually. So
Okay.
hopefully by this time next week it should be live. It should be out. Yeah. Yeah, we just shot that one this last couple of weeks. I want to do probably 3 or 4 more videos off the songs on God's Eye, as I get time and chance to do them, because some of the songs, as I mentioned earlier, are Levi's only sung on 5. There's 12 songs on the album, or 13 including Paranoid. And so they were instrumentals. They were written as instrumental songs. So the video brings a whole new entity to listening to the songs. And again, now, particularly if you listen to your music via Spotify, which I do, and a lot of people in England do, it's very popular here. You can get the video versions of it as well, so it gives it a different dimension as well. So necessarily being an instrumental song, the video lifts that and gives it a little bit more 3-dimensional sort of feel to it, which works well, I think.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and how you're speaking about that is, especially with those instrumentals, like "Welcome to the Apocalypse." I love that song and how it just the dynamics in it. How you're saying some can be masculine, some can be, it's just got so many different feels to it, all within one song. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It comes down to, I think, again, these two go very close. I've always been a phenomenal heavy metal fan. I love so many different bands from so many different styles. I hate to sort of say, that's thrash or that's new metal or that. I just love metal.
Yeah.
And I think hand in hand that goes with horror movies. My love of horror movies.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool.
So yeah, if you notice behind me, you'll see the Amityville windows in my studio. I've been an avid horror fan for decades. I love horror films, and so when I tend to write music, for example, like the Apocalypse song or the Symphony of the Undead, another song off that album, it comes back to my love of horror, and I kind of wanted to sort of be able to sort of create the feeling of a horror movie in a song, and so to be able to take that and use that as because there's no vocals in those. Again, they are, I suppose, loosely instrumental because they have got there is talking and there's a story being told.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to sort of create that horror feel to it, and one of the videos I'm going to release, I've not written or recorded the video yet, but I'm planning to do, is for Symphony of the Undead, which is one of the songs off God's Eye, because it's just a classic zombie story. And I just want to do a video for it because I love zombies and I think it'd be really cool.
Oh, yeah, it will be. Cool. So what are your plans for the future? I mean, I see that you released 12 of the 40 songs. Are you going to release more of those songs? And then what else do you have planned for the immediate future?
Yeah, we've got, I wrote 40 songs for Gospels of Odin, and I was kind of just enjoying writing. You'd notice I've been writing those songs over a period of just short of 18 months. And what I found was that there's certain periods of that time. For example, if I went back to April of last year, of 2024, that's when I wrote sort of Spellbinder. And then in the May, I wrote Alchemy, which is another song off God's Eye. And I wrote a few other songs that are not on the album that are ready to go on another album. And they were sort of written in probably a 2 or 3 month period where I was kind of really into that sort of vibe. And then something would change. I'd listen to something different. And then I'd start writing a bunch of other songs in a different kind of vibe, keeping really an open mind in how things were sounding. And so,
Jay, you still there?
All the other songs that are connected to
Jay
Gospels are kind of. I could have released 40 songs on that album, which was ridiculous, of course. But the songs have already been written and they've already been recorded. So it's now just a case of getting Levi to contribute
Jay, can you hear me at all?
vocals. to the songs that he wants to sing to, and for me to sort of begin to decide what 12 or 13 songs we'll pick from the remaining 28 and put onto a second album. We could release a second album tomorrow if we wanted to, but we're not going to do that because we're going to give God's Eye a good run first. So potentially we've got another 2 albums already written. And of course, I'm still writing songs, and I'm still inspired to write more music because I've not played or written a song now in probably 2 or 3 months. So I'm itching to sort of write again. I've got my writing styles back. So potentially we've got 3 or 4 albums of music already written, which is exciting. We seem to be reconnecting, guys.
Yeah, we lost your connectivity there. I'm not sure which end it was, but we've been having some bad weather here, so it could have been our side. So.
Yeah, no worries, my friend. Yeah.
I think you had pretty much answered the question. We were just asking what your immediate future was with the band, but I think you pretty much addressed it. But anything else you want to tell our listeners as far as what you've got in the works? What's coming up next for you?
Yeah, we've got. When I wrote the songs for God's Eye, there's an overspillage, I said, of 28 songs, and I think those songs, I don't know. How many of those songs will get used again, but there's potentially another couple of albums worth of songs there. They're written in the same vein as God's Eye as well, so they're seamless. They're pretty much seamless. If you release a second album, it's not like all of a sudden the music's changed. It would be seamless. I could have released a double album easily.
Hey, we're losing you again, buddy.
And I've not played and written anything.
No.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're starting to have some connectivity issues, so I think we better put wraps on this before the recording's no good for us. Hey, Jay, we really appreciate your time, Jay, and I will put links to all of your socials and your videos and pictures on our website.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been lovely speaking to you guys.
Yeah, great talking to you. And this being a Garage to Stage, podcast, any insights to new musicians out there that you can pass along?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the music scene in England's buzzing at the moment. There's a lot of bands. There's a lot of good venues popping up. It's vibrant, and I think there's a lot of talent out there now. We said it earlier in this podcast that it's much easier for people to learn to play instruments nowadays than it was back in the day. And all you've got to do is just sort of believe in yourselves and what you want to do. And as for me, keep it metal, just keep it real.
There you go.
Just right from the heart, and people are always going to love it. They're always going to accept it. They're always going to want it, and people are always going to talk about it. So for me, keep it metal. Keep it metal.
I love it. I was fucking
all right,
love it.
Jay. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It really has.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah, we'd love to have a follow through with you. Maybe a little bit down the road, you get another album out or put another CD together, and do some
absolutely.
Touring. We'd love to hear about what happens with you in the future. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting times. So yeah, let's stay in touch. I'd love that.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay, and best regards to you and your son, your whole family.
Yeah, thank you. Take care, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.